Hey guys, Sanch here. Before you get into this video, I did notice that my audio is garbage, so I do apologize. I have made the adjustments and I'm also in the market for a new microphone. So let me know down below if you guys have any recommendations. Besides that, enjoy the Arnold predictions video with Ty Jordan. What have you been up to, man? How's the off season?
Oh, man, same old, same old. All eyes set on 2022. Just going
Mhm.
through the, doing the business of bodybuilding. Trying to take care of the family in the meantime, make sure we're good on the home front. But all eyes on 2022.
Yeah, I'm excited, man. I think you always look pretty massive in the off season, but something about these shots. I don't know what you've been doing, but it looks wider. Your chest, your shoulders look wider. Your legs are always freaky, but yeah, whatever you're doing something right.
Well, damn, man, I really appreciate that. I think really good approach, and I think everything's really carrying up towards a really big 2022. Not being too aggressive right now, just really letting the food and the training take its course, staying dedicated to the process every single day, and I really feel a tide of momentum.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. What's the typical day look like for you in your off season right now?
Yeah, so I kind of have a lazy schedule, if you will. I wake up a little closer to 9 or 10. I get my training schedule with my clients started around 11 or 12. Right now, I'm typically training anywhere from 3 to 5 clients per day. During my downtime, I work on some client programming for some folks that I'm working with on the side. And then it's all about me. So I get into the gym for myself around 7 or 8 p.m. Usually there a couple hours. And, life for me is just being a full-time bodybuilder. So making the meals, getting the laundry done, just thinking about the next meal, the next training session, that's the life for me. And I love it. I wouldn't have it any other way.
Right. Yeah, that's the dream. 7 to 8 p.m. Are you taking stimulants that late in the evening?
I do. So, but let me also add some context to that. So I'm typically staying up pretty late as well. Sometimes as late as like 2 or 3 in the morning. If you remember, I was actually working a full-time night job up until I want to say July. So, even though I've wound my hours back a little bit, I'm still kind of a night owl. So it's hard for me to wind it down too early. But also keep in mind that with my training schedule with my clients, usually the earliest person I'll see is not till like 10 in the morning. Latest person I'll see is usually like 7 at night. So kind of a long day, if you will, even though I don't have a ton going on in between all of that. So it kind of pushes my training window for myself to that, 7 or 8, sometimes 8 or 9 window. And then, I've still got 3 or 4 more good meals to hit after that. So I'll stay up till sometimes 2 or 3 in the morning getting those meals in.
Wow. So you're
Yeah.
you're waking up, relatively late in the morning, but you're eating
Yeah. I would
throughout the
say,
day and then
yeah.
training, and then you're up till 2, 3 in the morning. So like how many meals are you
Yeah.
eating in a day?
So I'm eating 7 meals in a day.
Oh my
And
God.
yeah, and I find that's just what works with my current macro situation. Breaking it up into 7 meals seems to be just the best situation for me to get everything in, make sure get it all digested properly, and make sure I have the adequate spacing between those meals.
Mhm.
One of the things really big for me too is just making sure that I have the right situation going into the training environment. If my meals are pushed too close to that training window, I find that it really impedes my performance and it really increases the likelihood that I'm going to throw up. And I'm really OCD when it comes to my nutrition. So if I feel like I've thrown up in the workout, I've got to go and make that nutrition up. So I'll usually try to push an extra meal in the event that I do lose a little bit during the workout.
Wow. Wow,
Yeah.
I can't imagine. Well, how many calories are you consuming a day right now?
It's on the low end of 5,000, probably like 5,300 or so.
Okay. I mean, that's still
But
that's still a
that's
lot.
a lot of food when it's coming from clean calories. I don't think people
Yes.
realize precisely how to be from clean calories. So, that's a job in its own.
Yeah. And you're not messing around. Like you're eating really clean and you're prepping all the food yourself. So I mean, between you and your wife, like
That's right. And,
it's gotta be a lot of food.
I I become pretty accustomed to eating the majority of my meals freshly cooked.
Mhm.
So admittedly, that is where a lot of the time during my day goes. I'm spending, sometimes 15 to 20 minutes at the stove with each meal, getting it all prepped up. So, but that's one of the parts of my lifestyle that allows me to be so dedicated to my meal plan, is that I eat fresh all the time. I'm also a member of the Flavor Gang team. So, I've got my arsenal of sauces with me to go every time, and it makes it really easy to just stay on track. Some guys can, make the argument that, time's valuable. Let me go and grab some fast casual food at, Chipotle or Panda Express. But, I like to be in control of the inputs and outputs, and it's really propelling my progress.
Mm-hmm. And Ty, as honestly as I can say, it's showing. Like your physique updates in the off season. I mean, you look amazing. As a fan, as a friend, as a co-host, I'm pretty impressed with what you've been able to do this off season. 2022 is your year, so hopefully keep that fire going, and we'll see.
Well, man, I love what I'm doing. So even if it's not my year, this is a long-term journey, and
yes,
I doing it the way that I'm doing it. I'm really, really taking care of my health. Every single time I check in with my coach, we're checking my blood glucose, my blood pressure, my resting heart rate, and all my health markers have been phenomenal. Even as we're pushing 290 pounds here in the off season. And I feel like with that approach, that really makes me a pretty young 31 years old. So, even if it doesn't happen in 2022, one thing's for damn sure, the bodybuilding community that doesn't already, they're going to know my name. They're going to know what I'm all about, and they're going to know I'm coming. So thanks for being with me, man.
Yeah, absolutely, Ty. And that does speak volumes, because almost every NPC guy I've talked to, and including the new pros, all of them knew your name. So whatever you're doing it right. So it's kind of cool to know. But hey, man, say that again.
I said you're on the ground floor for this shit. You get to see it come up to the top.
Yep. Foundations.
That's
Bodybuilding's
right.
all about foundations. So the Arnold Classic, man, the Arnold, Ohio is
the Arnold Classic.
Oh man, how many days? Like 2?
Just a couple of days. And for me, man, like coming into this one, this is kind of like my Super Bowl when I consider like who's in the lineup. I consider like what's at stake here, because for me, the storyline that's always been more interesting is what's going on with the next tier or the next group. Of course, you want to talk about, the defending Mr. Olympia and who's challenging for the crown, but my personally vested interest has always been in that next crop. And I feel like this is that first real opportunity we get a chance to really see a big group of those guys go head to head. And that's what I got my eyes on, man. So, unfortunately, it seems like every big show that comes about, we get some unfortunate news, and, it rolled out one after one after one after one. I think first we lost Lionel. Then I believe we lost Cedric. I'm not sure if the order of that is right.
Yeah.
And then we lost Rolly. I'm not sure why we lost Rolly, but then today we got the terrible news that we no longer have the reigning champ William Bonac in the lineup. So, that does take a little bit of the shine off of what's going to be an amazing show. But one good news is that doesn't take anything away from what I'm looking forward to seeing, which is what happens with the group of the rising stars, the Ians, the Nicks, the Sergios, the Akeems. That's what I want. I want to see what happens with those guys. So as far as I'm concerned, it's still fair game.
Yeah, honestly, Ty, it really is a fair game for especially the people that we're really excited about, the Ians, in my opinion, the Nick Walkers. Who knows what Max Charles is going to be able to do?
Right.
But I don't think anyone's really talking about Justin Rodriguez.
And you took the words right out of my mouth. With both Max Charles and Justin Rodriguez. Justin Rodriguez's name immediately popped into my brain as I started thinking about what's going on with my top 6 predictions. Now that we found out William Bonac is no longer going to be in that likely first or second slot, Justin Rodriguez is the first name that comes into mind that's going to, I think, move up into that top 6 category. But yeah, got to give credit where it's due to someone like Max Charles, who's had a really impressive 2021 campaign. He looked phenomenal at last year's Arnold. I think he got sorely overlooked. In fact, in 2020, that might have been the very best Max Charles we've ever seen today. You know, you could make the argument that he could have flipped places with both like Sergio and Akeem in 2020 at the Arnold. So definitely looking for him to have a good showing here too. But hell, man, you want to jump into this top 6 predictions or what?
Yeah, absolutely, Ty. And also, I wanted to highlight before we jump right into it, Max Charles made some serious improvements in the wheels. And I know we talked about that last time you were on, but that's another thing to think about.
Max Charles, you know, I've been a fan of the sport for a long time. Max Charles got his pro card in 2013, if I'm not mistaken, at the NPC USA's. And, you know, for a seasoned veteran like that to make the substantial improvements he made to his wheels, you know, 9 years deep into a pro career, what have you, like, that's just crazy. You know, it's really, really remarkable. So I don't know what he did. You know, Max doesn't put himself out there a whole lot. I'm not sure if it was something he did with Milos, if it was something that he just did up with his camp in New York, but whatever they did, tremendous. And hopefully he talks about that at some point.
Yes. Yeah, it's hopefully we get to see a good package from him. He seems to always be in shape, so I don't think he's going to be slipping, especially with the opportunity he has here at the Arnold, Ohio.
Yeah.
But you said you wanted to mix it up. You said you had some different opinions on the potential top 6. So I wanted to get your feedback on that.
Yeah, you know, I've got a lot of conviction about this. You know, it's been pretty hard to place some of these guys, but there's been certain guys that have had their names floated about, you know, up in the top 2 or 3 spots. And I've got to be honest that I just don't see it. Now, before I actually break into my full predictions, I shouldn't even have to say this. It goes without saying, but I'm going to say it anyways. No disrespect to anybody that I name here, because, you know, we're talking about some of the best athletes in the world. And, you know, we've known for weeks now that one of the best bodybuilders in the world, whoever it may be, was going to end up in the 5th or 6th spot, because there's like 10 good bodybuilders here, you know, and you know, you could argue 6 of them are some of the best in the world. So that's just the way it's going to crumble. But without further ado, let's go and jump into the top 6. Okay. So in my 6th spot, I have Justin Rodriguez. I think I already kind of alluded to that when we talked about William Bonac being out of the lineup. For me, Justin Rodriguez is the first name that jumps into that list. And, you know, I definitely want to highlight the fact that Justin pushed Nick Walker extremely hard at New York. I think the version that he brought to the Indy Pro might have pushed him even harder, might have even have come out on the other side of that. Not really sure. But, you know, I'm a huge fan of traditional old school bodybuilding, and traditional bodybuilding typically favors poses like the front double biceps and the back double biceps. And those are 2 poses that Justin Rodriguez is just absolutely tremendous in. I think he's easily got the best front double bicep in the show. And he's arguably got one of the best back double biceps. You know, it's a complete shot for him, top to bottom. You know, he's got the lat insertions that you want. He's got the thickness. He's been bringing excellent condition. You know, Justin Rodriguez is a guy that typically, you know, kind of dials in his condition really late in the game. But it looks like he's on top of it. It looks like his camp, I want to say he's working with, is it Abdullah now from the Camel Crew? I think that's who he's working with.
It might be. I'm not 100%.
Yeah, I think they've got that pretty well figured out. The front double bicep picture that you posted from whatever gym in Columbus that he put up a few hours ago, just lights out. It looks dry to the bone. I'm not sure if that shot is filtered, but I think he's going to look tremendous here. And, you know, I'll add some points to my next placing as I talk more about Justin. But anyways, for the 5th place spot, this is where it shakes up a little bit. I think a lot of guys have this particular individual potentially taking the show, and no disrespect due, but I've got Ian Valliere in the 5th place spots. So my reasons for that, you know, when we go back to the previous shows that Ian has competed in this year, I personally thought Phil Clahart made a very impressive case for 1st place in both of those shows.
Agreed.
Also thought Steve Cucco made a very impressive case in Dallas, and I would have been very comfortable seeing Ian Valliere in 3rd place at that Texas show, even though that might have been the best Ian we've seen to date. But
Cucco was off. So.
Yeah, it was off a little bit. But let's just be honest, in that I just highlighted Rodriguez having a tremendous pair of both front double and back double bicep shots, those are two of Ian's worst shots, in my opinion. In fact, I think it's safe to say that the front double is probably Ian's worst shot, and that he doesn't even hit it in his individual routine when he comes out and presents himself to the judges.
Yep.
It's my personal opinion that just based off of the way that his back is constructed, it's, you know, knock on his effortless training. As you know, I think he's a standout trainer in the gym. You know, he really seems to know how to train his back, but it looks like his back is just missing some of those lower lat insertions and that completeness that you want to see. And while he's a pretty wide bodybuilder, he's not particularly wide in either the front or the back double bicep. And so, in my opinion, with the ground that he gives up on those two really, really important shots, and then when we factor in Ian's history of having some mental hurdles to clear over, you know, we say that maybe he's cleared some of those hurdles, but I think with this show probably being the big show of his life, even bigger than last year's Olympia, which was honestly, in my opinion, I think it was easy for Ian to be confident at last year's Olympia because it was basically just, in his mind, probably a rematch with Hunter Labrada. He probably wasn't thinking so much about the other competitors there at that show. And, you know, I think he knew all along that if he just brought the best version of him, he was probably going to be able to overtake Hunter, which he did. But I think coming into this show, you know, a chance to stay next to, you know, a Sergio to the likes that we haven't seen before, you know, and Akeem to the likes of which we've never seen before. You know, this is just a really impressive lineup. I think we can expect better from everybody, you know, better from Steve Cucco, maybe a best Justin Rodriguez. I wouldn't be surprised if the nerves got to Ian a little bit. And, you know, we saw maybe either the presentation or the condition, one of those two factors faltered just enough for him to land in that 5th place spot. So no disrespect, but that's where I see it playing out. Okay. So we've got Justin.
What about the competition between Ian and Nick Walker, because they're on the same podcast together all the time? Do you think that's going to play into the stress a little bit?
For Ian or for Nick?
Ian. I don't think anything can stress out Nick. Yeah,
no, I don't think that's going to be the particular linchpin that he stresses out. I think it's just going to be a composite of the fact that I think this is the biggest moment of Ian Valliere's career to date. And I think especially with what happened today with William Bonac coming out of the lineup, I think that actually potentially works against Ian's confidence. And that I think when you know there's a front runner coming into the show that's the odds-on favorite, I think it takes a little bit of pressure off some of these guys, knowing that they can come in at their best and no one's actually expecting them to win. But now you've got a lot of guys saying, oh, well, Bonac's out of the show, Ian's my front runner. I don't think Ian's the type of guy that responds well to that type of front-running, opinion-based fan attitudes towards his potential performance. I just don't think he's wired like that. So, yeah, I potentially expect Ian to come out a little bit shaky with the presentation. You know, he might be a little flat. He might be holding water. Those are some of the things that happen when guys let nerves get to them. So I don't think it's going to have anything to do with the preparation or the peaking that Patrick Tour does. You know, I think it's just going to be a little bit of matter of nerves, and it's going to be a really big stage. Yeah. But enough about Ian. Let's get on to the top 4. 4th place spot. I have this one. This is the one that troubled me all day long, man. This was a really tough one. But the 4th place spot, I'm going to go ahead and put Steve Cucco here. Okay. So I've got Steve Cucco here at the 4th place spot. Now, when I think of Steve Cucco as potential all-time best, you know, I could see Steve pushing potentially all the way up to the 1st place spot. But I'm going to go ahead and break down why I see him in 4th place. So I think when we saw Steve at Texas, I think as fans, we saw glimpses of what could have been the all-time best version of Steve, and that no, it wasn't his most conditioned, but I think that was the most pop and awe and wow factor that we've ever seen out of Steve's physique, who, in my opinion, for being a pretty big aesthetic, you know, nice framed guy, doesn't really bring a whole lot of pop and a whole lot of wow factor traditionally. You know, when you think of some of his past performances, you know, he's usually, in my opinion, a little bit on the flatter side and trying to bring that good condition, but he doesn't usually pop a whole lot. So even as a really big guy, in the past, I feel like it's been a bit easy to miss Steve. But I think when you just break down what Steve has on paper next to someone like Ian, I think structurally he's a little bit more sound than Ian. I think when you think of important poses, again, like I talked about, poses like front and back double bicep, I think Steve takes those poses off of Ian. The front double bicep, it's a little closer, but I think the back double bicep is a convincing victory for Steve. And, you know, you've got his back double up right there. You know, he's just got those lower lat insertions and that flow to the physique, the nice taper that Ian just doesn't have, you know. I encourage you guys, when I talk about Ian's back, you know, some of you guys are probably going to think, oh, what is he smoking? What's he talking about? I encourage you guys to go look at a picture of like a prime Jay Cutler back. And you'll notice that Jay was very, very developed in the upper back. You know, he had the big sweeping teres major muscle and the big full traps. But you'll also remember that Jay didn't really have the lower lat insertions, and there was just a little bit to be desired in that middle region of the back double bicep. And I think Ian, in that respect, is kind of a poor man's version of Jay Cutler there, in that his pieces in the back double, they kind of look the same, but he's not as big, he's not as wide, and he's not as imposing. So, you know, I think a show like this, especially one factor we haven't even talked about is, you know, at a show like this, they're going to work the absolute hell out of these guys, you know, and you've got to factor in who's going to get better and who's potentially going to fade. And, you know, we typically see a guy like Ian Valliere potentially, we typically see him fade when the judges really work the posing. So I wanted to drop that in there because that little facet, I think, plays into how I have some of the next placings breaking down too, and that, you know, who gets stronger as the posing goes on and who fades a little bit. So with that said, who I have for the third place spot, this was a really tough one. What I said before I announced Steve, I actually meant that about this next placing. And it's the second and third one that I've been wrestling with all day, pretty much all week between these two guys. And I don't want to give it away, so I'll just say who I have. So I have Akeem Williams as my third place finisher at this year's Arnold Classic. So I think we all can expect that Akeem is probably going to be pound for pound the biggest, roundest, freakiest bodybuilder on that stage. You know, I think he's you know, he's like a next generation Orville Burke, just a crazy, crazy physique, bubbly round muscle with a tiny, tiny waist, freaky high lats that make him look like a 747 jet plane in both the front and the back double. You know, just a crazy, crazy silhouette. And we've seen him really, really find his formula over the last couple of years. You know, he was a guy that you were really starting to feel for, you know, come, you know, around 2018, 2019, you know, it was like second place after second place after second place. And, you know, you could, his confidence kind of just hanging on by a thin thread. You know, when are they ever going to put me on? And then it finally happened for him, and he's finally found his formula. But the reason I don't have Akeem any higher than third place is to the point I just mentioned before I brought him up. And historically, we have seen Akeem Williams fade in big shows. We saw it in the 2020 Arnold. When you think back to, Akeem came out and he was actually on the edge of the first call out in one of the best Arnold Classics we'd ever seen to date. Remind all you fans that we had Dick Rami in that show. We had William Bonac in that show. We had Dexter Jackson in that show. And for a moment in time, we had Akeem Williams straddling the edge of that call out. But to the other point I made, they worked the hell out of those guys. They worked them. And that's what I love in bodybuilding. I love when the judges put these guys up there, they mix them up, and they really make them earn it, you know? And that's a really interesting thing that they do, because some physiques get a little bit better. They get a little bit harder. Sometimes guys get a little bit more confident when they get up there, they hear the audience. Then you've got other guys that, you know, their physique looks really good when they come out, but once they start putting in a little exertion, they flatten out and they soften up, or they start spilling water, and you can see their attitude and their composure start to wane. And I'm not saying that it's definitely going to happen to Akeem, but what I am saying is that we can only make our predictions based off of what we have to work with historically. And Akeem has historically faded in several shows. It's not just last year's Arnold 2020. We've seen it in a lot of shows where Akeem loses because unfortunately the other guy tends to get better as the prejudging wears on, and Akeem gets a little bit softer and he stops posing with the same charisma and conviction. So all that being said, I've got Akeem in that third place slot, which brings me to the second place. I think a lot of guys could probably guess it based off of me talking about guys getting stronger, guys fading. And so I've got Sergio Oliva Jr. in my second place slot. Sergio is one of my favorite bodybuilders. He really represents us tall guys pretty well. He brings a tremendous set of wheels to the stage, brings a tremendous structure in that he's very, very wide, almost imposingly tall and wide. I don't know if you saw that photo of him and Dennis James and Rami recently, but I think it really, really lets you see just how big Sergio is. Do you see that one there with DJ and Rami?
Yeah.
Click on that one. That's just crazy, man. That's just crazy. There's a girl that can make big Rami look like that. It almost looks like Sergio's arms are like double the size of Rami's. But again, it's just a photo. But let's get into more of why I think Sergio is going to be in that second place slot. So we talked about his imposing frame, his big structure. But what I really think is going to grab it for Sergio is that show that just speaks to a bodybuilder like Sergio Oliva. It's the one show of the year where they actually truly factor in the posing. It's the one show of the year where we can guarantee the judges are really going to allow the athletes to work, let their hearts really speak. And, Sergio's that guy that I think when he comes out, I don't think we're going to immediately think, there's one of our top 2, top 3 guys, but something's going to happen once they start to work these guys. Someone's going to start fading. And I promise you, Sergio is going to get harder and he's going to get more energized. And before you know it, the judges are going to give him a chance to step inside. And then you're going to be like, oh, he looks pretty good next to this guy. And he's going to get a little more hyped up. And before you know it, man, Sergio's going to be in the mix for that top 2 spot. I'm telling you, just watch it happen. On paper, he's got some holes in his physique. Of course, you'd like to see a little more going on in the back shots. He's got those high lats similar to someone like Akeem. But I've been following his prep closely. He's not dropped a lot of physique updates, but he has been keeping us privy to what's going on with the scale. And it looks like Sergio's set to come in here north of 280 pounds. It looks like something in the neck at 283 to 285. If I'm not mistaken, I think he was 278, 279 at last year's Arnold. And that hands down the best Sergio we've ever seen. So if Sergio can show up here 3 to 4 pounds bigger with the same condition, we've got no reason to think that he's not going to be totally spot on with his condition. Because if you recall, he was actually supposed to be on stage several weeks prior to this. Some circumstances that extend outside of the bodybuilding came up and he wasn't able to do that show. But rest assured, I think he was probably going to be in great shape for that one. No reason to think he's not going to be peeled out of his mind. Once again, working with his mentor and coach Aceto on this one. And again, when you just factor in the gravity of the show, Sergio's 5th place finish here last year, winning the posing award, really grabbing the hearts of the Columbus crowd. And, Sergio's got a mystique about him. He's, if I'm not mistaken, like the only guy coming into the show that we've not seen since last year's Arnold. And I think that mystique carries some weight. And, I think if he can come out and be at his all-time best, last year, his all-time best was enough to land in front of both Akeem, and it was good enough to land in front of Steve Cucco. Oh, I'm sorry, I take that back. Cucco was actually 4th last year. Forgive me, but it was enough to beat Akeem. And I think a lot of people have Akeem potentially winning this show with Bonac out. So, yeah, that's my dark horse there. I think he's going to take 2nd place. And so that's one guy left to be the top of the crown, top of the mountain, and that is Nick Walker. So why do I have Nick Walker winning the show? Well, the whole way leading into the show, I think a lot of people presume that William Bonac was going to be our odds-on favorite. It's looking like Bonac was reportedly coming into the show 9 kilograms heavier than last year. It's looking like his condition was going to be spot on. And everybody thought that with William Bonac being at his biggest and best we've seen in a while, the person that was going to compare the best to him was going to be none other than Nick Walker. And so with Bonac dropping off, Some people might think that potentially hurts Nick Walker's chances and that he is no longer the guy that compares well with the odds-on champ. But I've had no reason to suspect that Nick wasn't going to be in this top 2 mix for pretty much the better part of the last 10 weeks of this prep. We saw a tremendous Nick Walker at New York. I'm not going to say convincing victory over Justin Rodriguez. It was a close one, but he looked absolutely tremendous. And, he came out at night and he shut the door. That man has done nothing but work and work and work since that moment. And, one thing's for damn sure, this moment is not too big for him. We've not seen any moment come about that was too big for this kid. And, he does nothing but just grind, does nothing but improve. And it looks like their strategy has been to bring him in absolutely bone dry, flat and peeled. And I think they're going to fill him up just right. And, one thing I'm done doing is I'm done betting against Matt Jansen. That dude has been peaking guys out of this world this year. I don't think he's missed a peak a single time. And I'm just done betting against that dude. I think hands down, Nick is going to be the most complete guy at this show. And I think what's really going to seal the deal for him is when they turn them around. In my opinion, Nick was going to be the only guy that really was going to be able to hang with William Bonac when they turn around for that back double shot. You look at that right there. Nick is complete head to toe. He's got the thickness in the lats, the thickness in the upper back. He's got the massive hamstrings, the massive quads that are spilling around from the front there, the complete glutes. The glutes are going to be all the way in. He's got those lower lats again that you really like to see in the back double. And yeah, I just think he's going to be too much for everybody. He really doesn't have a weak shot. He's a mic dropper when it comes around for the most muscular. He's thick as hell. He's a world beater from the side. And, the only thing that people really knocked him for last year was, the way he presented with that slightly elongated torso. They've really fixed that. He's got a really clean front double bicep now with, potentially maybe the second best pair of arms in the show, maybe the best pair of arms. I love Justin Rodriguez's arms in the front double, but Justin's arms are actually a little bit weak when he comes back around for most muscular. He's kind of got the triceps, whereas Nick has just got tremendous arms from every angle. So I got Nick Walker winning the show.
I think that's a good breakdown, Ty.
Yeah.
I wanted to see Nick win this one. I think that he's the favorite coming into here. I completely agree with you on the comparison of with William Bonac dropping out because of it was been reported a visa issue. He's not going to have that comparison. So I was wondering if it was going to be where he wouldn't be able to get compared to the reigning Arnold Classic champion, the defending champion, but also he wouldn't be able to get compared as well against someone like a Sergio, someone like an Akeem or a Steve or an Ian. I think that is going to be what that story is going to be. That's what's going to happen. Are they going to be able to compare the shorter, more compact guy against some of these taller, more could I say streamlined physiques?
Yeah. So, I think a lot of people have probably been potentially doubting Nick's ability to hang with some of these, these towers, these guys like Cucco, these guys like Sergio, who are coming north of 280 pounds. But let me just remind everybody that Hadi Choopan, pushed Big Ramy for the Mr. Olympia title. And a lot of people think he's the odds-on favorite to push Ramy again this year, even over a defending champion like Brandon Curry. And Hadi Choopan is a smaller frame guy, and he's not weighing any more than probably 225 pounds at, 5'6". So, again, let's keep in mind that even though Nick Walker's stature isn't quite a Sergio Oliva or a Steve Cucco, I think he's bringing more than enough muscle per square inch. He's bringing more than enough 3D tissue. And, bodybuilding is not necessarily a game of stature, but it's a game of completeness. And there are just no holes in Nick's physique, no holes at all. So
absolutely.
And,
complete
I think
physique.
One other thing I want to highlight about Nick too, if you go back and just watch his performance at New York, there's a degree of poise and polish to that man that you just don't see on a young bodybuilder. You know, you never see him flinch. You never see him look like he's second guessing anything. You never see him look like his confidence is wavered. Everything is measured and everything is calculated and everything is cerebral. And, you know, that's a man who's 100% mentally vested. You know, he's not just riding by the seat of his pants. You know, he's in firm control of every action he makes, every muscle he flexes, every move he makes. You know, that's a man that's prepared. And, you know, bodybuilding favors are prepared.
Yes, absolutely, Ty. You mentioned that Nick would be a good comparison against Hottie coming into the Mr. Olympia just a few weeks out. I remember that one of the storylines was, we got to get Hottie next to Big Ramy because Hottie is the pocket Ramy. Do you think that would be a good comparison that a lot of people want to see, is a Nick Walker standing next to a Big Ramy?
I think it would be a tremendous comparison. You know, when you think about some of the areas that Ramy's just a little bit weak, and there's not many, but you know, Ramy still has some holes when he turns around from the back. Ramy still needs a little bit more of that Olympia caliber detail in his rear double bicep and his rear lat spread poses. And Ramy still could use a little bit more development, a little bit more polish in the rear lat area. That's just so crucial to having a world-class back double. And, you know, I think in terms of just quality detail and hardness and supreme condition, I think Nick Walker could give anybody in the world trouble in the back. I really do. You know, so the sky's the limit for the kid, man. The sky is the limit. You know, he's got all the muscle he needs. You know, let me remind everybody again, you know, back this summer at the Junior Nationals, Nick Walker got on stage and guest posed with Brett Wilkin, and he made Brett look small, you know. And then a couple weeks later, Brett went and shocked the world, placing second at a huge show, you know, at the Chicago Pro down in Atlanta. So again, I just want to remind everybody, this kid, Nick Walker, made someone who took second at like essentially a pro debut against a really impressive lineup to 100 Labrada. He made him look small. So I'm not worried at all about Nick Walker's size comparing to anybody, whether it be Big Ramy, whether it be Hottie, whether it be this weekend against Sergio or Cucco. Size-wise, he can stand with anybody, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Nick, I mean, like I said before we even got into the top six, he's probably one of my favorites to win the show. And Nick has said it plenty of times that he is going to win the Mr. Olympia in the next few years. So I think he's on track. You know, winning his pro debut at such a monumentous, is that the right word? Monumental a win of the New York Pro. And then coming into being a favorite in one of the biggest, you know, number two, probably the second biggest show in the world, the Arnold, Ohio. It's really exciting for the guy.
Actually, unlike that we've probably ever seen. You know, I know I'm not being entirely correct when I say that. I know there's been a couple of guys that have come up really, really fast in the sport. But I think what sets Nick apart from some of those guys, you know, like the Phil Heath of the world, is that I think Nick had to earn it a little bit more, you know. I think Nick really had to earn it and do his homework. I don't think Nick had anything given to him. You know, if you recall, Nick potentially could have had that pro card given to him as early as 2019 in a very, very close battle with Zach Merkel at the 2019 NPC days. And the judges sent him home and made him earn it, you know. So he did his homework, and, you know, he didn't just do what the next guy might do and just say, okay, I'm going to throw my name into the hat for the very next pro qualifier. He said, you know what? I came, I saw, I learned, but I know where I'm going, and I'm going to much bigger and better places than just being Mr. USA or just grabbing a pro card. So what he did was he took the whole year and a half off, and he set his sights on the 2020 North Americans, a show that I was actually at. I got to see him firsthand and see just how impressive he was. He knew that he was going to parlay that pro card run directly into a campaign, rather, I should say, an assault on the IFBB. And it's been nothing short of that. You know, he jumped right into a pro show like 5 or 6 weeks after that, you know, earned his due with, I think, a 4th place at the 2020 Chicago Pro in Atlanta. Looked very, very good against some top guys.
Yes.
And then it's just been all business, with the New York Pro. I expect him to come in here and clean up here at this year's Arnold. And yeah, I'm going to go on the record and say he's going to be top 5 at the Olympia.
Yes. Yeah. That was a good correction. He did do the Chicago before the New York Pro. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
But man, it's impressive. And yet you're right. We've seen it before where people jump into the pro circuit and really blow up. People like, a Derek Lunsford, for example, maybe even, yeah, that's the only one I can think off the top of my head, but it's impressive. So great prediction. Looking forward to seeing how the Arnold Classic lines up. I guess I have to work a few hours on Saturday, so I might miss some prejudging. But besides that, man, I'm going to be dialed in for the Arnold. I'm sure you'll be watching it in one hand with your clients in the other.
No, I've got my whole day cleared. I've got everybody
nice.
on. I'm not available. I think I'm going to take one person at like 8 that day, and then after that, it's just all bodybuilding. I'm not even sure if I'm going to train that day. We'll see what time finals gets over. I'm always super, super hyped on these big time show days, to get into the gym afterwards, let some energy out. But, we'll see what time it wraps. But I'm going to be glued to it. Are you going to potentially be free? Do you want to maybe break down prejudging after it wraps? Or we're going to just break this down on Sunday?
Yeah, we could probably do it. We could do breakdown prejudging. I'll be doing videos throughout the entire day. So I'll be on.
Cool, man. Well, shit, I can't wait, dude. Like I said, this is my Super Bowl, biggest show of the year for me. I've been waiting like 2 years to see where these rising stars really belong, as they stack up against each other. I hate that we don't get Hunter in this one too, because Hunter's the guy that's in that group that I really just want to see. Where do all these guys shake out? But, at least we get a chance to see what goes on, with like Ian, Sergio, Akeem, Cucco, all those guys are kind of in that same like 30 to 35 age range, which, as we know about modern bodybuilding, that's typically when guys really hit their peak. Obviously we have outliers like the Nick Walkers of the world, but it's usually around 32, 33 that guys really, really start to come in their own and, show some of their best years. And I think that's where a lot of those guys are kind of hanging out at, respectively, with their age.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess I was kind of bummed out that the 212 hasn't made a return to the Arnold Classic yet. That's what I was thinking about immediately.
They were getting the shaft, for several years before, they got nixed from the lineup altogether. I recall a few years in the past, they were putting them on like the expo stage instead of the actual Arnold stage. And they were usually getting a pretty time slot, like usually one of the very first events of the weekend, like before anybody's really even up and moving, they're on stage. It's honestly, it was rather disrespectful. Those guys deserve better than that. I'm not at all to say that. I know you're a huge 212 fan, so you'll appreciate this sentiment, but as it pertains to this year's Olympia, I'm probably more excited for this year's 212 than I am for this year's open class.
Yeah, I can honestly say that myself. Yeah, it's
you think about it. You think about a defending champion as quality as Sean Clarita. When you think about defending champs like Kamal Garni, when you think about rising stars like Derek Lunsford, who finally has the coaching situation nailed down, I'm so excited what Ani Rambad could do with him. It's scary, and then you've got guys, that won pro shows this year. I'm not like, guys like Ahmad El Sadani, there's just some really, really good guys in here. And I think it's going to round out to be one of the best 212 Mr. Olympias we've seen in some time.
And so much young talent. Nathan Epler, Antonio Burton. Antonio Burton.
I was names because a lot of the big 212 shows happen so long, so early in the year. Yeah. But yeah, it's like that. And then you got like, of course, hallmark names like John Jewett coming into the show. Like, it's going to be tough, man. Like if you try to put me on the spot to place them,
I couldn't even do it.
I really don't think I could. In that case, those guys are all so close. They're so neck and neck. I mean, we had the chance to see, Tonio Burton, Nathan Epler, and John Jewett all in one show. And it was like splitting hairs trying to pick between them at that show. Imagine how hard it's going to be when they're all peaking for the Olympia. I would not want to be a judge.
Yeah. It's it's
probably one of the phrases on this.
Yes.
Every time I say, not judge guys.
It's going to be one of those lineups you don't want to miss. That first call out for the 212 prejudging when they come out. Woo! It's going to be it's going to be good. I'm very excited. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't really want to talk too much about the Olympia, but yeah.
Yeah, man. Well, hopefully the fans like this one. Hopefully you can get this uploaded super quick so we can get some feedback from the people. Curious to see what everybody thinks about the predictions we laid down here. Guys, let me know in the comments what you think. Very curious to hear. It's tough to put the predictions out because, of course, we don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. Josh and I are huge fans of all these guys, even the guys that we have at the bottom of the placings. So, not try to rub any feathers wrong, but got to call it like we see it. So let us know what you think.
Yeah, let us know, guys. Ty, I really appreciate you making time. I know you're busy, man. I know it's later for you being in Central Time, but with the fans appreciate it. I appreciate it. We look forward to having you come back on for the prejudging breakdown for the Arnold Classic Ohio.
Yeah, we'll shop.
Yeah. It'll be a good one. But as we conclude, Ty, you want to plug your stuff real quick?
Yeah, of course, man. So still rocking with my team since day one, Phase One Nutrition, bringing some of the best hard-hitting sports supplements to the market. Make sure you check out Phase One Nutrition on Instagram. Use code Ty Jordan for all your discounts. Definitely make sure you guys also check out the company I plugged earlier in the podcast, the Flavor Gang. For anybody that's serious about their bodybuilding diet, this is the best line of sauces, spices, marinades, and now hot cereals you're going to find on the market. My team, the Flavor Gang, we carry Nick Walker, we carry Brett Wilkin. Brett Wilkin's even got his own sauce coming out. It's going to be called the Butcher Sauce. It's kind of like a steak chimichurri sauce. Seriously, guys, you have to try these sauces. Honestly, they've changed my life as a serious bodybuilder. I started using them back in February. Just wanted to give them a shot after seeing some hype about them. This was a time in my life when I was eating out entirely too much and, really not being a very serious bodybuilder in the peak of my off season. And since I've been affiliated with the Flavor Gang, I've just been a customer for 6 months. And I was using their sauces so religiously that they were able to bring me on board as an ambassador with a discount code. And it's one of the companies I've been super, super proud to promote and tell people about because it's just made such a difference in my bodybuilding experience, being able to stay on track with my meals. So again, check out the Flavor Gang, use code Ty Jordan on all your Flavor Gang purchases. And also keep in mind, guys, we always do an end of the month special where shipping is free. So make sure you check that out. It's usually the last couple of days of the month. Do not miss out. We've got every sauce that'll fit your need. So get it.
Also check out his Jed North. I've been looking at them. I always knew they had really cool clothing, but I never realized how affordable it was. I always thought it was like crazy expensive.
Yeah, Jed taking really good care of me. I've been a part of their VIP influencer program for a couple years now. If you actually go back to my page, that very first embed there where I'm doing the leg extensions, that's actually a Jed North oversized tee and some Jed North shorts I'm wearing there. So yeah, basically 100% of my bodybuilding threads are Jed North gear. So if you like my threads, that's where I get them from. I do not have a code to provide for you guys, just on their VIP influencer program. So they just hooked me up with some free gear in return for some promotion. But would definitely love to see you guys support them as well, as they do great by me. Their clothes are super comfortable. One thing I'll say too about their clothes that I've probably not even told anybody before. This is my, oh, shit. Sorry, you still there?
Yeah, you're good.
All right, I didn't mean to click off. It's funny, an Uber notification came up. I tried to move it off, and I'm like, shit, I'm not ordering now. Anyways, but I actually love to sleep in my Jed North clothes. So like the shorts like that, and then some of the tank tops I wear, there's just something about that Jed North fabric that it's just so soft, it's so comfortable, and I just love it. Apologies, a fan in this room just came on. It's blowing pretty loud. You probably can't hear me too well.
Didn't even notice it. You're doing good.
Oh, awesome. But yeah, so I love sleeping in this clothes. I love training in these clothes. They're my household wear. So yeah, love the Jednor family. The last company that I will plug, if you ever see me posing, whether it's in season, whether it's off season, any of my posing trunks, it's always from Jaguar Suits. Jaguar is one of the tried and true, most original companies in the bodybuilding game that provides posing suits to both men and women. They've been supplying posing suits for Mr. Olympia champions like Ronnie Coleman, Dorian Yates, Sean Roden, just to name a few. But their company and their product dates back to the 90s, and they're still supplying great athletes with awesome trunks even today. So if you're looking for a great pair of trunks, they've got a variety of cuts. They've got a variety of fabrics. I personally love their velvet suits. I just love that velvet finish. So if you guys like the velvet suits that you see me wearing and my check-ins and on stage, definitely hit up Jednor and let them know Ty Jordan sent you. They'll take care of you.
All right. Will do. Ty, again, we really appreciate you coming on, man. Appreciate the flow, appreciate the knowledge and depth that you give to this sport. And we look forward to hearing back with you on the prejudging breakdown.
Oh yeah, man. I can't wait to find out what happens this weekend. We'll see how well I did.
Yeah, we'll see, guys. I know my predictions are a little different, but we'll see. We'll see how it turns out at this year's 2021 Arnold Classic in Columbus, Ohio. That'll do it, guys. Another episode on the Bodybuilding News Network. I'm your host, Sanch and Ty Jordan, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
Yeah.